Start with Rotary motto.
Service above self.
And pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jim, will you bless?
Please join in prayer or meditation as I say, bless this food to our use and us to thy service. Amen.
Amen. Alan, we're ready for a song.
We do have one here. All right.
We're gonna sing a song.
Yesterday was Memorial Day and the flags were flying, so we're gonna be doing page 21, the bottom of the page. Your grand old flag. A little background on that. It was written by George Cohan in 1906. There's musical George Washington Jr. And the lyrics came from a chance encounter on a train with a Civil War veteran who fought at Gettysburg. And while together, this old veteran unfolded this tattered, beat-up looking flag. And he referred to it as a grand old rag. And Cohan switched the words, calling it a grand old flag. And it was a very popular song. In fact, it was the first song from a musical that sold over 1 million copies. So in memory of those who've given their all for this flag and our country, let's do a good job on it today. Okay?
You're a grand
old flag, you're a hot and forever in peace they reign. You're the emblem of the land I love, the home of the free and the brave. Every heart beats through under red, white, and blue, where there's never a post or brand. But no, the queen can be broke up, here I own this grand old flag. Okay,
All right. One more.
All right, thanks, Alan. Everyone, can see it now. Good Memorial Day. Okay, yes.
I am.
Hey, hey, welcome.
And have a few announcements. Thanks to all those that helped out with the parking at the Barrier Island Center. It was a good day. There was a lot of people there, so I'm sure we'll be doing it again next year. And I think this Saturday there's a Chesapeake Bay cleanup day. Jason, did you say you signed up?
Yes, so I signed this all up for this weekend. I have about 4 seniors that are gonna help out that needs hours for their volunteer hours. Anybody else who wants to volunteer, just let me know. It's 9 o'clock at Oyster Harbor on Saturday. That's the first. Yes, so anybody else who wants to join, we're just gonna be picking up track and from 9 to 12, so. All right,
All right, I'll send out an email.
or if you want, okay.
We're gonna meet at the harbor.
Yeah, we're gonna meet at the harbor at the public ramp. Okay, 9 o'clock.
Thanks. I think on June 15th, having the road, Aaron Davis is in charge of that, so that's a few weeks, a couple weeks. And we're also having our club social on June 25th, that's the last Tuesday of the month, and then we're making dates on June 28th, the last Friday of the month. John Burgess wanted to put out the word on that, but of course, he's not here today. I don't have Katie details on that, we're selling $55.
$55 for a tray. Start, if people want to check that, come around noon. Sheridan Fire Hall, fire station. If you don't make arrangements, have your folks pick them up. If you need to take them to them, or else, I get. We'll do a reminder email.
Yeah, we'll send out an email.
So sell, start selling.
Any other announcements?
Yes, Karen Davis, was unable to be here today. She asked me to pass around a sign-up sheet for the road cleanup on, or garbage wheel, as Stan has dubbed it. June 15th, 9 a.m., over at the Eastern Shore Custom Carts. You all know the drill. Please join, please sign up. That's it around.
Any other announcements? Anyone have happy dollars? Bill?
Yes, I have 20 happy dollars. 10 because I couldn't do it last week. But Katie wasn't here and I'm just happy about the job she did with her cohort who isn't here either. We'll have to catch up with her later, but happy about the job Katie did for the 100th celebration. And then again, I just want to keep this guy in focus. We, Chuck, had the parking on Saturday. We had more cars than I've ever seen. And it would have been chaotic if it wasn't for Jason. Jason jumped out in front. I'm the leader, follow me. And it went perfectly. So once again, I'm happy for Jason being
Thank
a
you.
member.
Good, Jason. Yeah, great. All right.
Happy dollars. Yeah,
I have, $10 I'm putting in, two $5 contributions. The first five, is, in honor of the parking on Saturday and how well it went. One of the reasons apparently that we had so many cars, actually, that we had actually room for so many cars, had to do with the crops. And this year, there was a cover crop planted over some of the areas that last year we couldn't use. So this year, they were just cutting this straw about this high. The real reason I'm giving the $5 is because we parked all of these hot, very hot catalytic converters on top of the straw and did not set a field on fire. So there's the first $5. The second $5 is because I found out something very interesting about Paul Strong, because he does an amazing long and hard workout when he shows up at the gym. So the other 5 is for Paul. I want to grow up like Paul.
No, you didn't. You grow old.
thanks, Jim. Any other happy dollars?
Hey, Bill, if you can hear me, I got 5. I got some happy dollars.
Okay, you're next.
Happy dollars. $5 because I appreciate what Jim Rich said about me. I do try to keep in shape. I appreciate him noticing. So second, I'm glad Adam's here and going to join the club. And thirdly, my favorite niece and her family visited us for Memorial Day. And we really enjoyed their company.
Right.
Bill Murphy has, he's on Zoom.
Yeah, I've got 10 happy dollars. First of all, 5 happy dollars because everything made it over here to Chesapeake, no problems. So far, nothing broken. I'm exhausted, but everything else is fine. The other $5 I've got is I want to thank one more time Katie and Joan and everybody that had anything to do with the anniversary celebration. It was one of the best times I've ever had in Rotary. And it was just a spectacular night. So that well done to everybody. And I already miss you guys.
All right, Bill, thanks. Come over and visit when you can.
I will.
Anybody else have any happy dollars? How about the card game? Who has a high card today for the Queen of Hearts?
I only took 3 cards.
Oh, no.
Oh,
That's the same way I had yesterday.
You have activates.
If it's not Jackie, yeah.
I'm Jackie. Jackie's my partner.
With him all the time.
I appreciate it, looks suspicious.
All right,
The
Bill.
good thing is Bill's always generous with the winning stuff.
Give it back, give it
I'll
back.
take this one. No worries, guys.
All right, it's 7.
The
no
pot
way.
grows.
All right, I forgot to mention, we did have a visiting Rotarian today, I think it was Tim Byler from Hinesville, Georgia, he was passing through, but he came in and talked to Dolores, Ken and I for a while. He's outside of Savannah, but we gave him take-up cards. This is a Ken and, it's time for our program, I think Steve Atkinson, is that right? He's our program today, he said he's gonna talk about Menhaden. So, Steve, like to come up here?
Excellent, will do. I don't think I need a mic.
Yeah, you do. We've got
Do I need
some,
a mic?
Yeah.
Okay. Talk with a mic. Hey, thanks for having me. Thanks for Bill Payne, I guess, one of the Rotarians from Richmond, where I live, reached out to Bill, and here we are. So yeah, my name is Steve Atkinson. I do live in Richmond. I'm fortunate to have a small little second home over here on the shore, which I love. I do quite a bit of fishing. And I'm also chairman of the board of this organization here, which is the Virginia, see it on my shirt, Virginia Saltwater Sport Fishing Association. And basically we are advocates and lobbyists for healthy, sustainable recreational fishing in Virginia. And that's kind of what we do. There's about 10 people on our board, and we work with the General Assembly, we work with fishing regulators, you name it. We've had a number of meetings in the governor's office here just in the last year to talk about the topic for today, which is menhaden. Now, how many of you know about the whole menhaden fishery? Anybody? Well, a few, yeah, okay, great. So, so what I'm gonna do, there's a documentary that's been made on this. It's pretty new, it was done within the last year. And it's about 30 minutes long, but I think it'll really give you a good background on what's going on. And I think one of the things I'll talk about afterwards is how this is impacting Northampton County, probably more so than any other place in Virginia. And a lot of people know that, and a lot of people don't know that. You know, I don't know whether y'all seen some of the menhaden ships out in the bay. For those of you that go out there, the big blue ships, they're basically doing industrial scale fishing in the Chesapeake Bay, which on the surface might seem just fine. But Virginia is the only state on the East Coast that allows this. It's been outlawed in every other East Coast state. And to think that we've got the largest estuary in the United States, the Chesapeake Bay is the largest estuary in the United States, which is also a nursery for many, many species and fish, birds, mammals, you name it, that all rely on menhaden as their primary forage. So we think what's going on in the bay is a huge mistake. And unfortunately, this thing is very politicized for those of you that know about this. And we'll say a little bit more about that after this film. So I'm gonna go ahead and roll this thing. Hopefully, Bill, we've got to reconnect the projector, I think. If we can make it reach.
okay, yeah, go ahead.
Where's your,
Take some minute.
Okay.
we probably never should have unplugged it.
Turn the crank harder.
Put you on your, splitter?
Yeah. It was working. Yeah, we had it working, but, some guy thought it'd be a good idea to unplug it. I never unplug anything.
That you, Bill?
Some guys.
Some guy.
No, that was, we did it so that the, Zoom machine had power, but now I think we're okay.
Oh,
We're okay. You know, it's an old machine, it has vacuum tubes in it.
Is there any way to adjust the lighting on that at all? I mean, just it is what it is.
You make it brighter?
You know, like, no, it's just a bright, we'll just see how it does here.
Too bad.
Open my sound.
What we can't see will make up in.
You don't hear that? You don't see anything happening there?
The menhaden is the king of the forage fish in Chesapeake Bay. It is absolutely critical to the health of many species.
What is occurring in Virginia is against the law in.
I wish our politicians would stop taking these donations because if nothing else, the optics of it are very bad.
Menhaden are these oily little fish about 12 inches long, very bony. We don't eat them, but other fish do. And they're the most important fish on the Atlantic and Gulf coast of America.
On the Atlantic coast, one sees river after river of marshes. These are very low coasts filled with incredible amounts of phytoplankton. Menhaden are not found elsewhere in the world in anything like the quantities in the United States.
Think of them as a keystone species. You know, a keystone in an arch, you pull the keystone out, the arch collapses. Without menhaden in the Chesapeake Bay, many species of fish and wildlife would collapse.
Menhaden, what's different is they can digest cellulose. The animals that can digest cellulose are like cows that have 4 chambers in their stomach. So it's very unusual how a fish can do this.
The menhaden swim in schools that are tightly packed together. When they start feeding, they open their mouths wide and swim straight ahead. They eat the plankton and algae that contain omega-3 fatty acids. That omega-3 builds up in the tissues of the menhaden. When striped bass, bluefish, whales, sharks, and anything else eat menhaden, they get the omega-3 fatty acids they need.
The humpback whales are feeding primarily on the menhaden. They're a great source of nutrients because they're full of oil and great nutrients for any wildlife. And we're actually able to document that because we see what's known as lunge feeding, where the humpback whales come up with their mouths wide open and engulf large numbers of fish. they take these terrific mouthfuls out of Menhaden School. That's just a small amount, so they don't impact the overall abundance of Menhaden. They bring those nutrients through their excrement to the surface, and the bright layers of the surface promote the growth from those nutrients to promote the growth of the algae, which provides the baseline for the total food pyramid.
So I think the easiest way to understand the importance of methane is to compare them to bees, because bees are keystone species on land. So if you had a company that decided, oh, bees are a great source of aphrodisiac, and they scoop up all the bees in an area and grind them up to sell these pills, well, would we allow that to happen? We would understand that our crops would fail without the bees. Same thing, or more so with menhaden. Menhaden are such an important part of American history. All the fish that have been caught in the United States from the beginning, menhaden are more fish than all the other fish put together.
And it was the Chesapeake Bay that provided the ecosystem that allowed menhaden to reproduce in unimaginable numbers. The bay is the largest estuary in the United States and begins in Maryland and ends 200 miles south at Norfolk, Virginia.
Hey, my name is Captain Neil Pappas. I run a fishing charter named Planet and Charters out of Virginia Beach, and I've been fishing these waters since I was a little kid. I was actually raised in Hawaii and moved into the military back from Hawaii to here, and I've been here since I was in the 11th grade. You know, over the last 20 years, I've seen a lot. I've seen it where you can walk across the Chesapeake Bay on bunker many, because there was that many of them. I used to get excited telling my captains, hey, slow down, there's fish here, slapping everywhere. They would say, calm down, it's just menhaden, they're everywhere, they're always everywhere. Taught my son how to throw the cast net. You take him out front and catch our dinner. You can't do that anymore, really. I've watched them pump saloons right here up the ocean front, right onto the beach with swimmers right there. In the inlets. You used to be able to walk across the inlet. It looked like it was raining in the inlet. There were so many bunker. Peanut bunker, we call them. Last year, barely any peanut bunker. The year before, terrible. Years past, 5, 10 years ago, bunker. Lots of bunker. We're talking $1 billion industry. Hotels completely stuffed with people in the wintertime. The parking lot full of boats and trailers, trucks with boats everywhere. Well, that's not the case anymore. They got 5, 7 ships, 3 spotter planes, and industrialized this to feed fish in Canada. Where are the brokers? Gray trout are completely out of the bay, just about gone now, wiped out. Where'd they go? Where? Something's going on here at the ocean front. Something's wrong. Something's not right. And we know what it is.
Cook Seafood is a Canadian company that operates in 9 countries around the globe and harvests 25 species of fish. They are vertically integrated from catching fish, processing, and selling seafood products.
The Canadian-based company, called Omega, threw up a lot of red flags for us because, you know, it's vertical integration. So you're buying a company that is industrial markets with menhaden, pelletize the menhaden oil, and feature aquaculture fish.
They use industrial scale fishing technique. Fish is important. Forage fish is important as menhaden. One has to question whether it is appropriate to use industrial scale fishing to take this fish out of the Chesapeake Bay, especially when you think that it's being taken out of the Chesapeake Bay away from the fish it feeds in the wild to feed hen-raised salmon raised by folks.
And I've been told that the reason that this was allowed was based on the fact the number of people they employed, and the fact that it's a Virginia-based company. I know that they still do employ some Virginians, and they have warehouses and shipping facilities in Virginia. But the issue is they're no longer a Virginia-based company.
Nest is empty. So this is nest 5, empty. I've always worked with birds. I've got a BS at Virginia Tech, a master's at William and Mary, and a PhD at the University of Georgia. One of the species that we've had long-term connection with is osprey. Chesapeake Bay supports the largest concentration of breeding osprey in the world. The osprey are just part of the culture here in Chesapeake Bay. And, they're a sign of spring. People love to hear their calls. We have a number of bird species that depend on menhaden at different times of the year. Northern gannets come and stage here in the Chesapeake Bay on menhaden. Common loons come in here in October and November and feed on menhaden in the bay. Double-breasted cormorants actually migrate with menhaden along the Atlantic coast. So there are many bird species that depend on menhaden. Osprey eat about 24 species here in the lower bay, but they seem to be reliant on menhaden, and it's because of the nutritional content of menhaden. They're high in lipids. And so back in the mid-1980s, menhaden represented about 70% of the diet here for osprey, and osprey were highly productive. By the early 2000s, they had dropped down to about 25% of the diet, and productivity had plummeted. We're nowhere near sustainable levels in terms of osprey productivity.
Sure, so the striped bass fishery is the striped bass are a long-lived species. They've been a staple in the Atlantic coast history, and whether it be recreational or commercial for a very long time.
It's the #1 spawning ground for the East Coast. Over 60% of the ocean-going striped bass begin to spawn in the Chesapeake Bay and its tributaries. Striped bass in Menhaden, one adult menhaden was 1,000 days as far as nutrition goes. They're very nutritious for striped bass.
Bad side of the news from Chesapeake is that in the last 3 years, we've seen well below average, if not historic lows, of juvenile fish being observed. So that's some really telling information. Let us know that they're not being. Unfortunately, we've seen a decline in striped bass health overall. Mycobacteriosis is one of the big ones that's being looked at a lot. And ultimately, it's a wasting disease or an impact on the immune system of striped bass.
Striped bass is my main game for striped fish. We have a saying actually in the defenders, it's called no bunker, no bass.
Commercial regulations and recreation regulations are in pretty good shape, especially right here in the state of Maine. But there are issues that exist in one of our adjoining states, which is the state of Virginia. What is occurring in Virginia is being against the law in Maryland. And we see how dangerous this is.
It's happened again, another dead fish spill on a local beach. This isn't the first time.
This time, though, it was not just menhaden. There were larger fish species involved as well. 3 weeks ago, Omega Protein said one of its nets broke off Silver Beach. But that spill was mostly menhaden, Omega's target fish. Today's spill had larger sport fish, including red drum.
These bunker boats, as they're called, are from the Omega Protein fleet. I have been living at Silver Beach since 1963. I've seen it every year. Every year we've had the same problem, the same fight, and nothing ever gets done.
Omega Protein's vessel caught and killed 12,000 pounds of red drum
and important recreational fish.
You don't have menhaden to bring in the other fish. You're not gonna catch any kind of game fish because there's nothing for the game fish to follow into the bay because they're catching it all. Look at these poor fishermen, the local guys, it's killing them. They can't keep up with the cost of running their boats.
I have seen data that the impact of jobs for our very significant decline in striped bass. And the numbers I've seen have been somewhere around 1,500 equivalent jobs. That would be both commercial and record, and like charter captains have been lost due to the decline of our striped bass fishery. The way I think about this is with Virginia allowing them to harvest the resource in the bay at a much lower cost versus going outside in the ocean. Basically, the state is subsidizing this operation. And the problem with that is that what about the cost to the bay?
Just 2 years ago, the amount of menhaden that were harvested in the Chesapeake Bay by Omega would, if you put it in tractor trailers, would stretch for 40 miles worth of tractor trailers.
The Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission regulates the catch of menhaden up and down the coast.
The commission looks at each of the fishery species in a single management plan currently. For some of our species, we do think about them in an ecosystem perspective, like Atlantic menhaden. Does the commission look at whether or not overfishing is occurring or if the menhaden stock is overfished? We do an assessment for Atlantic menhaden, just looking at its stock status on its own. And under that assessment, the stock is not overfished and overfishing is not occurring for Atlantic menhaden.
What are they gonna tell you if the place under control this? They're gonna tell you that it's a healthy fish.
Right now, the biomass of menhaden is not as large as would theoretically be needed. We need to get that population up because what nobody has asked is, if the menhaden population is below target biomass, will those other predators also have adequate food?
You should need a scientist to ask a few fishermen. You can find out. It's real simple. The best source of information is the guys who are out there every day. You gotta listen to the guy with the blue shirt. The guy with sweat on his brow. Not the guy who's benefiting off it. I don't have the most benefit off of menhaden, but I'll tell you what, as this area does, there's nothing more important than menhaden to this whole area.
Menhaden harvest in the Gulf of Mexico is really very much a Louisiana fishery. About 70% of the total Gulf harvest comes from Louisiana state waters. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.5 billion to 2 billion individual fish are being caught by 2 companies off Louisiana's coast. Omega Protein, which has a plant in Abbeville, Louisiana, a plant in Moss Point, Mississippi, and Daybrook Fisheries out of Empire, Louisiana, with 1 plant. Tried to work with them to find some reasonable compromise in this fishery, find some ways to manage this in a better way that's more respectful to Louisiana's coast.
Well, we have the boats out here right up against the beach. They just strung the purseine net, which catches everything that swims. And now they're pumping the bogies, menhaden, mullet, croaker, speckled trout, white trout, redfish, whatever got caught in that net. They're pumping what'll go in the hole, and then the big fish are gonna get kicked off to the side, pretty much dead. Sharks, bull redfish, or jacks. And right now, they're pumping the water out of the hole to make room for more menhaden. And all that water that's coming out of the boat right now, there's no oxygen in it at all. They're pumping it here, and this water's hot, shallow, but at about 4 feet of water, and when that no oxygen water comes out, it's gonna kill everything there too. Just absolutely no reason for those boats to be this close to the beach. I mean, they're less than 100 yards from us right now, about the length of a football field, and we're 25 yards off this beach, so they're less than 200 yards from this beach. A beach that, by the way, just got restored, just got $120-ish million invested in it to restore it.
several of us have been attending monthly meetings of the Virginia Marine Resources Commission over the past few months to ask them to conduct a public hearing on changing the menhaden regulations. And so they have now announced that on December 6th, there will be a public hearing. And this is maybe one of the biggest opportunities we've had in a long time.
Well, I want to like to welcome everyone for the December 6th, 2022 Virginia Marine Resources Commission meeting. As you can see, we have a house here today.
We can take this step forward today in this direction. The proposal that you have before you today is an attempt to show you what a potential step forward could look like for your consideration and discussion. But we feel it's important to take a step forward today to show that progress can be accomplished and that we recognize that there are common sense solutions available to us.
My name is Tim Landry, Director of Public Affairs for Lake Protein and Ocean Foresters. The standards of this commission conservation and its regulatory process. We don't believe that this proposal does that. We've already had tremendous competition by the basis. So making these area restrictions are necessary for this conservation. It's unfair that this company continues to get villainized using the scare tactic of Canadian owned. There's not a single Canadian that works in the refill plant, but I'll leave you with that.
I'm out there 200 charters a year. I put 28,000 miles on my boat in the last 2 years. I've got it all chocolate written. I've seen the day. I personally, with my last few seconds, want to tell you what it's done to other fisheries. Carolina striper fishery, gone. Bunker in the ocean front at the end of the year, gone. These guys pack it up. I don't. I fish year round.
People say, why don't we just work out? Guess it would be easy if you could do that. Just
Why do you have to fish that close to the line from a possible?
Well, I mean, this basically might be oversimplification, that's what a fish was.
I'm a the amount of fish brought to the dock needed process. If we can't catch fish, we literally have.
I fished over the Eastern Shore for 50 years. And when I first started over there, the Kipton Peak Inn was full. Now it's empty. Those are blue collar jobs too.
I really do appreciate everybody's input and all the work that staff has put in. That being said, matter for commission.
I'd like to make a substitute motion to replace the 3 regulations that are in board right now. Fishery agreed to work collaboratively. The governor's office in general considering address the geographic buffers along the densely populated areas of the Eastern Shore of Virginia.
This isn't a regulation. It has no force of law.
I do feel like MOUs is a good potential path forward, and this is something that the administration would support.
Add it for commission. For Mr. Miller's motion. Memorandum of understanding. All those in favor say aye. Chair votes aye. All those opposed say no. Motion passes. Thank you all for your time on that one.
One month after the December meeting, the VMRC released its memorandum of understanding.
What we had is a memorandum of understanding between Cook Seafood and the Commonwealth of Virginia to restrict fishing in certain areas where there's a lot of recreational boating or recreation on the shores. So where the company can fish and where they can't, when they can fish and when they can't. But still, they're granted the opportunity to continue much of the year with industrial scale fishing. Is it enough? No. Is it a good start? Yes. But really, one has to ask the question, why are we using industrial scale fishing techniques to take the most important fish in the Chesapeake Bay, menhaden, out of the bay and feed them to farm-raised salmon by a Canadian company? On Cook's website, it's written, part of our success is our ability to control our supply chain. Think of what that sentence says. They're admitting that they're controlling their supply chain. Their supply chain being menhaden, and the control comes in their ability to influence and control legislation and policy in the Chesapeake Bay in Virginia.
Virginia's Secretary of Natural Resources, Travis Boyles, is pictured on Omega's press release.
So one of the things we looked at was, what is the economic value of leaving fish in the water in terms of the supportive role of barred fish to commercial fisheries? Because if you leave the barred fish in the water, commercially important species will eat them, and those species will be caught and they have a value. So we call that the supportive value of barred fish. And it was interesting to compare that to the value of the landings of the barred fish themselves when those are caught and sold. And what we found is that the value of barred fish as food for commercially important species was twice as high as it was for the value of the landings themselves when just taken directly out of the water. So one way we sum that up is these fish are worth twice as much left in the water as they are taken out in a net. There weren't very many menhaden in the New York area for a long, long time. The menhaden management improved, and there were cutbacks in catches. And now we see menhaden off the coast of New York. And the menhaden are there on the whales, on the sharks, the dolphins are all out feeding on them, and we get to see them. It's a real well-lit spectacle.
Okay, I'm gonna stop it there. It's just, about another minute or two. I know some of you might need to get out of here, but I wanted to just make a couple comments in case it wasn't clear. There's a lot to unwrap here. This is a pretty complicated issue. I was in that meeting at VMRC. I was one of the people that spoke representing saltwater anglers. It was standing room only. It was an absolute circus, to say the least. Of course, Omega brought a busload of people, and so they agreed to pass this MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, which I will say has been helpful to the Eastern Shore. They now have to stay a mile away from the beach here. What that does is it tends to keep them in the deeper waters, because when they come into the shallow waters, that's when they have these net spills. Their nets get full of fish, they get in shallow water, maybe 10, 15 feet of water, the nets scrape on the bottom, and they hit something sharp and they tear. And so that has been useful, but it is an MOU, it is not a regulation. If they decide tomorrow that they're gonna basically ignore the MOU, there is no legal recourse. Because the BMRC board couldn't pass the proposed regulation. Part of the reason they couldn't pass it is the BMRC board has been stacked with friends of the menhaden industry. You cannot make this stuff up. The governor appointed 4 people to the BMRC board. 3 of them were friends of the menhaden industry. Can't make this up. That's what's happening over there. There's lots of us fighting this thing. I will say, what I'm encouraged by now, if you haven't heard, there's a new lawsuit. Basically, under the False Claims Act, this is a federal lawsuit against Omega and Cook Seafood. Have y'all heard about this? Anybody heard about it? It's interesting. Golly, it has very interesting. We gotta get the newspapers over here. Keep talking. You know, so
Good article.
basically, they're being accused of fraud, falsifying documents, because Cook is a foreign-owned company. Okay, there's a law that says foreign-owned companies cannot fish in our waters. That's been on the books forever. It's not well enforced, apparently, and they found some kind of loophole that, and supposedly, you know, I don't know, this hasn't gone to court yet, but supposedly they falsified some records, and now they're being sued for it. So we'll see what that happens. If that's proven to be true, in my simplistic view, I don't know why we wouldn't just take their license from them and would no longer allow them to fish in our waters. The problem is, Reedville, Virginia has about 250 jobs over there, and everybody's fighting for those jobs, including one of the big proponents over there is organized labor. So organized labor is a very effective lobby with the General Assembly. Anytime something comes up that could affect Omega Protein, organized labor screams foul play. This isn't fair, we're gonna end up losing jobs, these are good paying jobs, Reedville's gonna go into a total depression, on and on and on. I've heard these stories for literally years. It's nothing new. So that's, you know, the lawsuit is an interesting thing. I'm trying to pull up a document here if I can find it. Let's find this document. Some of, you know, people typically ask us, gee, okay, this is interesting, so how do we help? Here's some things that we always tell people, if you want to help. There's a lot of people involved in this, but I'll tell you, it is so politically charged, we need a lot more people speaking up, calling Delegate Bloxham. Delegate Bloxham, I'm just gonna say it here, is a friend of Omega Protein. He's your guy over here on the Eastern Shore. Linwood Lewis used to work with us. He was kind of on our side. He was very helpful to us. As you know, he's no longer in the General Assembly. It's again, this is a very tough political issue, and it's got a lot of money behind it, as you can imagine. I was telling this gentleman here that Omega Protein has the very best lobbyists that money can hire in Virginia, and that's a firm by the name of Wire Woods. They're very good at what they do. I see some heads nodding. They've hired the best. They're not stupid. If they didn't have the best, they would probably be out of business, I think. So anyway, here's some things you can do. We always tell people, contact the governor's office. He's gotten plenty of calls and emails, but certainly done. I know that's a little hard to read. I have a hard
Can you send that to us and then we'll
I
make
can
sure?
email this to you.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I send it to you then?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So one more thing you can do, we're out showing the documentary just to try to expose more people to this. My organization, this is a big piece of what we do, the Virginia Saltwater Sport Fishing Association. What kind of questions can I take? Yes, sir.
Why is everybody private?
I think a lot of people don't know about this. It's the biggest little fish you've never heard of, right? I mean, corporate greed is alive and well. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Where does the step stand on this, right?
What's that?
Where does the step stand on this?
Well, the staff, he's against this. And he's against the menhaden reduction fishery operating in Chesapeake Bay. Bill DeStep has been working this issue for years. You know, he's over on Virginia Beach. Obviously, he covers this area now. He's very familiar with this. He's heard from his constituents, but there isn't much he can do, honestly. He can introduce a bill. Many bills have been introduced and many bills have been killed before they ever get out of committee. All of these bills have to start like with the Chesapeake Bay Committee, and they have to work their way up. And usually they get killed. Again, the lobbyists are pretty powerful, and I'll give you a great example. We had a bill this year, second year in a row, to do a study. The Virginia Institute of Marine Science is going to do a study at menhaden to find out what's going on with menhaden in the bay, because we think the population in the bay is about wiped out. They were going to do the study. It's going to cost $2.7 million. I know this well. I was down there lobbying for it. The industry was part of creating the study plan. And I know that for a fact because I was in the room last summer. There were 20 of us in a room for a day and a half, including the mega protein. The industry was part of it. We all agreed on the study plan. And then the industry turned around and lobbied against the bill. The bill was postponed until next year. That's code for we killed the bill. You work with the newspaper?
He owns it.
Question about Hook and Omega. So Omega is the company that principally, if I understand correctly, it principally operates in the Chesapeake Bay. Hook is the one that this lawsuit is against.
It's against Cook and Omega. Yes, and the other one is Ocean Harvester. See, they set up this shell company called Ocean Harvester, which owns the ships. So the idea is the ships then sell their product to Omega Protein, who is owned by Cook Seafood. It's this big, complicated quagmire. And someone basically has blown the whistle on this thing. This is just BS. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this lawsuit plays out. So what else? Other questions?
Steve, I have a mug for you.
Oh, thank you.
Did need to wrap things
Yes,
up, but I'm sure you'll be glad to stay around if people have that question.
Absolutely, and I will email this to you.
All right, thanks again, Steve.
Yep, thank you.
I think we're all interested in the health of the Chesapeake Bay, so like I said, I guess Steve will be able to stick around a little while after the meeting, if anybody has any other questions.
Sure.
Does anyone else have anything for the Rotary? Let's all stand and say the four-way count.
Is there all concerned will build goodwill and friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Will we have fun?
Yes.
That's a good ending to the Menhaden story, by the way.
Yeah.
Great job.
Thank you for having me. Did you learn anything there? I did. Yeah. And it's a complicated, people always ask me, how come it's very complicated?
Oh, you know. I owe Ken
They're
$2.
hardly anything so far.
No.
And today, they steamed up, they're fishing off Maryland, Delaware, and New York. There's nothing to that.
There you go.
Good and not good.
Yes, got the word.
Okay.
If they can't find fish on that.
Yeah, great English. We'll see you next
The
time.
ecosystem can't find fish.
Delighted to have you on board. We're legitimate now.
That's right. Are out there that need to be eaten. They're not finding fish.
They've done it.
I think so. I think the other thing that's going on, someone mentioned climate change. I think what's happening. is
Have a good day, bud.
more and more
All right.
Not coming into the bay like they used to. They're going north.
It's gonna be village.
Talking to people in New Jersey, New York, they're like, oh, man, it's country.
Alright.
I think that's what it is. But either way, we gotta control what we have left. Yeah, so tough situation.
All right. Have a good play golf again.
That's what I want, man.
No, you know, we'll open up today.
It's gonna be a little warm today. It might be a tad warm out there. Drink your Gatorade.
I will. I've got a part that has like.
Yeah, man. Good talking to you.
Oh, yeah.
Gave you $2.
I got the $2.
Was it 2 or 3 I
I took the ticket.
Yeah.
It was for the,
What even now?
I don't even remember.
Oh, yeah. Either do or I'll pick it up.
All right.
That's the guidelines, they still have to.
Then you had a little profile today.
I know, I just behave.
Yeah, that's what you call it.
See you later. Tell Jackie it's been hi.
Jack feels good.
All right. All right, have no secret. All right.
Yeah. Flying to California, walks away. On Friday.
I have names.
Yeah.
I only have
Your
one
kids are
group
crazy.
Pictures. Last year, I'm.
Pray for her. No, I'm doing one. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'm going out.
Hey, thank you a lot, Dave.
Anytime. Appreciate it. I'm just coming.
Okay.
No, just coming. I was, I saw that.
The guidelines get touched up. I've been around the arc on multiple occasions. It's like, you guys don't have the ability to waive or reduce them in any way, shape, or form.
You're familiar with
Yes,
this? You know the whole issue.
yes. But the long term is so low.
Your neighbor.
Oh, we met them.
And sure?
We met them at Cape May.
No, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got all the.
No, that's all. It's like 2 hours from that.
See.
3 days. Find a machine.
Okay.
Well.
Oh,
well, let's try.
Here's how far they are, right here. If we just leave.
We got,
Yeah.
which 2 houses are we talking about? Lou's house?
Well, I'm south.
Oh, okay, I never go over there. So what's the problem?
How long do you go? Medium. Low density areas, which we are,
Follow the money. Yeah.
20 feet.
That's all we do.
Here's the problem.
You and I get
Very one.
Common sense says it's not a problem. It's not a problem. Come on, Scrap.
We're gonna do some science. We're gonna get some science.
Beat me up. Yeah. Well, beat me up. All right.
It's really not until.
They're less active, they're less vocal.
They But I'm just, that's what you try to break it down.
I'm not gonna use it,
Yeah, I'm giving that to the.
Gallery is happening, like, I don't know if there's an impact of
Same thing. The issue is what you guys asked.
Northampton County,
We
in
don't
fact,
track
the Northampton County Board of
Yeah.
Tomorrow, it's the. And we, the NRC,
But I'm not,
fishery advocate.
Oh, I mean, you think that, I had a good day, yeah, that's right.
And the thing was, masturbate.
I'll get over it. Okay. Counselor, so she's tracking, make sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just, right now, it takes a lot.
When I was educated,
how many people?
well, we're not on the ground.
Yes, and I'm working behind the scenes to.
So
Yes.
that happened.
Have I
Unless the
cross-checking,
law did
triple
come
checking
through.
this list? Yes, I have. Really, yes.
Hey, thank you, sir.
Inspections coming in, building
It's
official.
an honor to have a room.
Yes, the information I'm providing.
You might even join Rotary.
Well, you know, I live over here.
No, I mean, your local.
Oh, yeah.
You
got a good
I'm
club
not allowed to
there.
release that as a public document.
How do I get the news?
Well, it's a 2015, 2015, yes, it's accurate number, that date.
And we have to take her.
I've been in there some talks.
Okay, let's spend that. That's good, good town.
You thoroughly answered my question.
Okay.
And